Good morning, everyone. My name is Steve McCary. I'm a platform integration manager here at Q-SYS and occasional host of these Tuesday webinars. Being joined today by Trip Matthews and a late addition to our team, Bill Crow, who is going to be a fly on the wall. However, he is one of the more knowledgeable flies we have around here. So with this, I will hand this over to Trip and let you guys get a little more learned on the PL series. Good morning, Trip.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome. I'm going to be jumping back and forth between some PowerPoints and some other things, but I'm a senior solutions architect with our biz dev team, mainly in our hospitality and entertainment side. And let's see if we can go ahead and put this. Is everybody able to see our PowerPoint? Is that
Not
the
yet.
screen showing well? Okay.
No,
Is it not?
no, I don't see it.
Oh, maybe I gotta hit the good old just share the screeny thing maybe first. Where's share the screen? And there it is. We're over here now. Let's go to this one. And we'll pick that one off. And now we'll do it. How about now? Is everybody seeing the right screen or?
Nope, I still see you. There we go. Now we're on.
We're so technologically capable here. But the whole idea behind this webinar was that when we put the PL series speakers into the designer software, there's been some questions about how the properties are set, to work. Mainly around a lot of this is around the using the PLLAs. How do you apply the settings to make the voicing corrections work? But we want to start out with, first of all, to advance a slide. Today we're going to look at configuring both the CA line, the DC line, and the LA line in the designer software. We want to start out with doing biamp and triamp settings. Sometimes you may want to run these products in biamp or, no, I mean biamp or passive. There is no triamp. And in the manual, this is what you have. It's the back panel. With this image, it's just basics. I'm going to switch over to looking at the actual speaker here. So I'm going to have to hit the stop sharing for now. And you should have an image of the speaker panel. So this is what the panel is on all of these boxes when you take them out of the box. But first of all, you have two little indicators here to let you know whether you're in the passive position or the biamp position. And that is all done by switching a multi-pin connector, the light off it right, between the passive setting or the active setting or biamp mode. And that is done with a multi-pin connector. See if I get the camera to give me some focus here. There we go. And that is this connector right here to the side. I'll slide this over. And when you open up the back panel by taking out the 6 screws around, you get this multi-pin connector. And the only thing about that I would add to that is you just move that between the two positions, whichever one you want. But there is a locking tab here that you would need to press down to have it removed. But they're just, you pick the setting you want. They ship as passive. Slide the pins in there as soon as I can get her to line up. And I don't know if the camera's focusing well, but you would slip it into the passive mode and then just set it back into your cabinet. You would have an indicator showing that you're in passive mode and connect accordingly as you need. Whether if you were doing biamp, you would connect between the 4 pins or NL4 on some of the boxes. But that's how that's done. So in the field, if you want to, go back over to me. In the field, if you wanted to go into biamp, that would be what you would want to do. So let me go back in here and let's go share my screen again. So that's biamp settings. Again, the manuals have all this for you. They're the connectors and how they move and how the pins wire. pins 1 and 2, or pins 1 plus minus are your LF, and 2 plus minus are your HF for your connections, if you wanted to go to that. Switching to biamp mode will give you roughly 2 dB more of output on the box, but it will allow you to control your crossover points and your limiting if you needed to do that. Although the passive settings are an excellent performance of these cabinets.
So, Trip, just to clarify, by moving that on one side or the other, you're just going around the crossover that's built into the panel?
Correct. You are bypassing that. Now, you still can use voicing within Q-SYS to send the signal to the amplifier and do crossover and all that, as we're going to show here in a little bit. But you would, just be bypassing the internal crossover. So then you have full control over the other pieces if you wanted to wire it that way. Or if you just wanted to have the extra amplifier power or control and limiting by going biamp, you could. But again, it only gains you from engineering about 2 dB of performance. Okay. So looking in the designer, we're going to actually go through and set up this together. So I will pop out of this mode and get good old Q-SYS up. And hopefully everybody's seeing Q-SYS. I want to be sharing my screen. So is everybody seeing a Q-SYS file? Hello, Steve?
Yes. Sorry about that.
Sorry, I don't have a preview, so I don't know.
No, that's fine. I
All
was
right, so
talking to myself and forgot to unmute myself.
so in the CA series, we're always going to have our amplifier that we're going to bring in to run these. Again, you can choose the power you want. I have the 8K4s just for plenty of power. And we're going to be looking at the CA15 box. So again, I didn't go through adding inventory for each of these speakers, but in Designer, you would go to your performance loudspeakers and then pick the cabinets that you need that you're working with and add them over to inventory and use them accordingly. So with the CA15 right now, the cabinet has got one connector, one forward or left facing triangle, and you have one left facing triangle for an amplifier, and they can connect that way. Property wise, this speaker is in, you can give it whatever name you want. If you've been through training, you know about all that. The model CA15, that's the speaker we're using. Inline processing. What that does change is allowing you to use another amplifier or maybe an older amplifier of ours. So if you switch it to inline, I'm going to just do that for now. Hit yes. And then put the properties away. And what that does is actually allow you to put the voicing characteristics in the line path before the amplifier. So this could be an output, a line output to drive an existing amplifier or something that you may have, and not using one of our amplifiers, but we would highly suggest keeping these within our amplifiers because the beauty is you're getting all of the limiting capabilities so we know exactly what the drivers can take. We won't overpower them. The amplifier will not put out more power than to damage them. And so in passive mode, your mode here, passive, you get the one connector, and that's basically how it would be done in passive mode. If we wanted to do this in biamp mode, and again, this is just modeling the same setup. I just pre-loaded all this to save everybody some time to watch. We would then go over to the properties and switch the mode to two-way. You would then notice you have the two connectors. Let's go ahead and pop these out the way. Hovering over them, you'll know which one is which. So this channel would be HF, this channel would be LF. Connecting it this way, the amplifier now knows exactly what is connected to its output, and so it would do the internal crossover for it. Any voicing capabilities, processing we need, it would just allow you to run the drivers separately. If you wanted to do some pre-processing up front, you could. but this would still allow our voicing capabilities to be put into the amplifier, along with all of the limiting and protection. And with that, the DC line is basically the exact same. Any of the speakers except for, let's see, we can't do biamp on the CA5, and you can't do biamping on the DC24, but the other models you can. So on this one, we're going to kind of start out doing the same build for the DCs. Go get us a DC12, pop it in, and we'll look at the properties again. There's some different properties with the DC because it's directivity control and you do have horn patterns, but we're going to stay in passive mode. And we're going to pick the horn that you're using, depending on how you set it up with the various horn lenses that came with the box. We would do that. You may notice one thing in the file here if you're following along in your own. This is actually a version of 10.0.1. We were able to get the engineering guys to move your sub with sub or not sub or high pass, yes, over to inside of the block. So now you actually have the ability to drop down and pick what high pass you would like to do that with on all these blocks. So as soon as our 10.1 release comes out as a maintenance release, it will actually have this added to it as soon as it decides to finish out. But you now can pick no sub or 3 different high pass filters, depending on what you're doing for your LF or what you need the box to do. So that's now in your speaker blocks in the next version coming. The current version you have now, that would actually be a property. So let me disconnect. And since we're in passive, you just add the one connector. And not to be too redundant, but if we're doing this with a biamp speaker, we would go up and change the mode to two-way. Again, giving you the 2 connectors. And wiring that up just so. So you could actually have a little bit smaller amplifier on your HF than you do your LF, depending on how your amplifier works out or how your design works if you want to do biamp. But again, the performance is going to give you a couple dB more with a little more, then you have actual level control for the HF and LF one if you wanted to do some balancing in your system. All right. Well, let me flip back to the PowerPoint here just to run through. All right. And I'll just leave it in its mode since we're sharing right now. And we'll move on down to, we did the DC, which was exactly the same. But moving into our line arrays, this is where things get a little bit different. They will come in and wire exactly the same biamp or two-way or passive. But what you really need to know is when you're building your arrays, we need to know 2 main things. How are you powering the amplifier on these arrays? How many amplifier channels do you need? The other is, what is the actual splay break that you're bending your array? And the reason, look at the reason why this is considered a 2-segment array is if you're taking some level down on a set of boxes like the bottom 3, well, then you need another amplifier channel to be able to turn down those boxes. So it's literally powered in what they call a 2-segment array. So I'm going to hop back over to the Q-SYS file here. And we'll just start out doing the same fun, whether it is passive or, and this is somewhat redundant, but we'll get it in there. Let's see, we have, so with your line array, we have that just got an 8-inch one, again, set in passive, and it would connect here the same. If we did it in biamp, or two-way as we keep calling it. I call it biamp, but that's what I'm used to. Two-way would then let your high frequency in your LF in the two-way cabinet be separated, very much like all the other boxes, and it would be wired in a configuration like this so that you have the separate control over each piece. So very much like all of the CA and DC lines, you can make them two-way or passive. The big part gets down here when we start to look at the configuration. And so I brought those numbers over here so we had them in front of us. And we're going to bring in an amplifier. Oh, we don't want to do all that now. Come here. We just need the amplifier. And we need a 12-inch box. I'm going to move this over so we can see it. And if we're keeping this in passive, it's fine. That would be what you would think you would do. And if it was a two-segment array, I'm going to go up here and just take, let's see, we're going to, did we leave that in there in our inventory? I think we did. My config inventory, so go away for you, go away for you. No, we'll do it another way. All right, so most I've seen, and people would think that since we have the two segments in this array, you would probably come up with some kind of setup like this, where you have the top boxes and the bottom boxes wired up. And that might be the way you would think you'd do that because, it's two amplifier connectors and two sets of speakers. But if you went in and configured these with either the total configuration or a part configuration, you have to understand that all these boxes are acting as one array. So all of the HFs are coupling or decoupling, depending on how much you break the array. And all the LF, all the way up to the mid-range, are coupling in this array, depending on how far you break them, but you really are not going to separate them more than a quarter wavelength. So you're going to have all of that, and the array thinks, this is what the array is working as in the physics of the world, but we're trying to voice this properly with the right balance of low and mid and high frequency. So this would really not allow that to happen because each of these blocks would think they're a smaller segment of an array, but they're still coupling to the other boxes. So we would not want to be doing it this way, for sure. You would want to take this one block and say, okay, I'm going to run passive. Do you want to use array correction? Yes. We can say no if we want. That means it'll just be uncorrected. But we like to start out with our correction. So we're going to have, how many boxes are in this array? Well, we see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 boxes. So we're going to tell it it's 7. And we're going to want to know how much splay is in this box, or how many, degrees has been broken. So you would take all of these numbers and add them up. And they add up to 27. So it's telling it it's got 27 degrees of splay break in the bend of this array, which means it knows basically how the drivers are being separated totally. So it knows how to add in a correction to make this box, the array sound as we expect it to. And then the last piece is the segment. Again, there's two segments here of the array. It's all one array, so we would make it 2. And what that does is add the second connection to the block. So now you have your first segment and your second segment, all being voiced as one array. It's not in two-way, but it's two segments. If you were doing it in two-way, you would actually have 4 connectors here. And this allows for the proper array correction for this line array the way it has been deployed. So again, to look at the properties, we have seen this not done very well out in the field, is you want it to have the total boxes put in, the total number of angles, count them all up on your, either at the site or by your software. and how many segments. I mean, this could be a 3-segment array, it could be a 4-segment array, depending on how tall it is. And hopefully that helps because this will put this array in a very neutral and the sound that you're expecting from any of our demos you've heard. And then you can do any room EQ as needed in front of that to tailor what the space is actually doing to the sound. But we are now creating a very smooth output between high and low frequency. If it was done with the 2 connectors, you're going to have some really inappropriate sound and things that you feel like you got to go and do a lot of EQ with to make it, kind of balance out when you don't need to, because we're kind of automatically doing that for you as an our array correction, and that's how we know how to do it. So I hope that helps a lot down the road when you do deploy some of these boxes, that you will start at a good spot. And I'm going to hop back over here and look at subwoofers. With the PL subwoofers, the 15 version and the 18 version, we allow for you to configure them in what we call cardioid setups. But there's a couple different ways of doing the cardioid, and this is straight out the manual. You can either do a back to front, where this one's firing back and this one's firing forward, a stacked set. So if this was flying above the array or on its own fly, forward cabinet, rear cabinet, side by side, same difference. They're all working as a pair to remove approximately 15 dB of LF. Well, where'd you go there? Coming out the back of the unit. And when you do turn them around, you have to get the cable connection. So inside, you would remove that same cup that we looked at earlier, and a cable would come through the port to get you that connection to the return of the firing speaker in the back, so it's cleanly, and you would just basically connect it on the inside. And then we do offer a replacement grill that can go over top of that to make them look the same. So you could keep the one that came with the cabinet on the over the woofer for protection of dust and anything that might get into the cabinet. Could be small, animals, depending on where it's hung, if you're outside possibly or whatever, or anything could get into it. So you leave the grill on the front to protect the portholes, and then you can put a spare grill right there on the back and make it look clean, or if you need to, it's up to you. So in Q-SYS, you would be creating these setups by, again, using the properties that we have. So if we have 2 of these subs, and certainly this would be replaced with more channels and more subs if you had larger stacks of the subs, but in normal use, they would just be run on their own channel or pair of channels, depending on how you want to power them. And they're in default of Omni in the properties, but you have the options of cardioid back or cardioid stack. And so depending on how you saw the other one, were the boxes truly sitting like this, or are they stacked like this? This one might be your front. So you would just tell it is, oh, where's my property at? There we go. Cardioid stack. And again, the system now knows, oh, there's 2 of them here now. So we don't need this block anymore. And it knows that it would put the front box in phase. The rear box would come out of channel 2, and it would already be set up with the filtering to create a cardioid stack. If you had the cardioid back, it would be the same setting. It would then take cardioid back, and it doesn't change, but the one block works as a pair of drivers or a pair of subs, so that it knows how to build the voicing to create your cardioid on that. And I believe we are right up at the end of the material that I have, so I think we can go into any questions that are out there, anything that I didn't go deep enough on, any things you've seen or tried. I think they have. I don't see the actual questions where I'm at. So if one of the moderators or Bill or someone can offer to help would
Yeah,
be
I don't see anything in the Q&A right this second. We'll give people a second to put some stuff in there. Um,
anything you want me to go back to. I know it, was relatively quick, but I
there's
mean,
a
the material is
question
pretty
asking about the
straightforward.
difference in usage of the flat versus the non-flat profiles.
Oh, yes. Flat would have us, I can pop back here. The flat profile would come out with an exact balance of HF and LF to create you, if you put smart out in front of it, you would have a flat response. Our response or our voicing, we have a little tailoring of that, a little more LF and a little different tailoring. And so the voicing that the flat is what it is. It makes the cabinets reproduce a flat response. And then the other setting is our voicing for the array and what we feel is the what we like to consider the Q-SYS voicing for those arrays.
Do we have any road shows coming up that you're aware of? I know we have
We
those
do
period.
have one in New York, down in the Brooklyn area, week of September 15th. I believe it's on I have to check. The flyers are getting ready to go out for everybody to register for that. The next city we're looking at, we haven't set any dates yet, would be in the Atlanta area. After that, the expectation would be at least we're hoping to do a city a month over the next months after that. And so please see your regional sales manager or your salesman and ask, or put interest in for your city, and that will help them, pick a city in their territory that fits the most people. And with the road show, we do carry both the 12-inch line array, the 8-inch line array, pretty much the full complement of the DC line of speakers and the CA line. I think we're not showing, yeah, depending on venue size, we do drop off a speaker or two depending on the width and size of the space. But usually it's we're not showing like a 12-inch CA with the 15-inch CA with the 12-inch DC because of their outputs are very similar. But for the most part, you would get the full complement of the DC line, the CA line, and the LA line.
Give it a second to see if anybody else has any more questions. All of these are available in ease, correct? We have ease
Yes.
coming for all of these.
Yeah, all the voicings are available from our website for ease. And then if if you haven't downloaded a later version of the Focus file, you can basically just go to import and import those GLL files right into the Ease Focus. They do come
Done.
in as one speaker, so they'll come in as a CA, they'll come in as a DC and an LA, and you then tell it in its properties, what horn patterns you're using in the Ease or Ease Focus, and then what model you're driving. So they kind of compiled them up into one file for all the series, and you have a drop down under the filter section of Ease Focus to pick the horns that you're using for the DCs or the actual CA box from a drop down menu.
And I don't know if I missed it or not, but did we talk about the CXQs and how many of them, how many speakers you can put per channel depending on
I
the.
did not. That's a good. Thanks for catching that. We are saying with the LA series up to 4 cabinets on one channel of an 8K4. Um, Certainly don't want to go over that with the impedance matching. That would give you excellent output. Staying within 4 cabinets per channel. If you really wanted to step up your output, you could do the channels in parallel to give you a little more current. But we haven't seen a need for it as these arrays are positioned to be in your medium level auditorium, house of worship, We're not looking to take over the touring world with these boxes. These are install cabinets. All of the hardware is designed to be screwed together, and then it has nice covering sides on it. Um, there is work being looked into for white versions to be added down the road, but currently the boxes are all in the black for now. But there is work being done for a white option for all of them.
And they're all you know, stainless screws and, ABS enclosure, all that stuff.
It,
So
yeah, the closures are, at least the LAs are all ABS. The hardware is stainless, which again covered by another ABS cover. Fly frames aluminum, and then the DC and CA boxes are weatherized plywood with a Duracoat on the exterior. All grills have a stainless mesh right behind the grill so that water ingress is pretty much controlled or dust. So they are usable in what we consider outdoor protected areas. So if you have an overhang, or if you've got a band shell that has the speakers not out in the direct weather on a pole, then we're fine with that. But we're not suggesting these be considered all rain, full weather, all weather boxes and just left out in the environment. We'd like to have them under some sort of protected cover, and they should, that's where we're looking at. They're IP54 rated. As you can tell, they're not rated to be, just fully deluged by rain and sun all the time.
all right, Jesse's got a question. Can you show how to set the subs in a cardioid stack again? He thinks he might have
Sure.
spaced out for just a second.
Not a problem.
And while you're looking that up, John Trenholm says that he's going to be installing these in the Christ Cathedral next month, and he's been very happy. This was very helpful for him.
Oh, good. Well, I'm glad we caught you before you installed them. And that way, that array setup would be, keep you from running into that question.
And
So,
I'll answer John's question, or his other question, which is a note for everyone. Within about a week or so, you will receive a recording of this webinar. So yes, if you feel like you want to go back and watch this later for things that you couldn't forget, or maybe you're just having trouble sleeping one night and my voice is what does that for you, yes, you can absolutely go back and watch this later on. You'll get an
and
email with a link in it.
we will also, by that link, we'll have the PDF version of the PowerPoint, which has all this built in it. So that could be a good sort of application guide later. So with the subs, you bring them in, and when they're not in any kind of cardioid mode, they show up as Omni or a single connection to the 18. If you had them stacked or end-to-end setup, you would then set the property from Omni to either cardioid back or cardioid stack. It would then replicate two drivers or two speakers, and you would have your front firing speaker and your rear firing speaker wired on channels 1 and 2 respectively. And again, remember in Q-SYS, you can hover over the connectors and they will tell you what they're expecting to be.
All right, let's see. Can you explain the inline again?
Okay. So we'll just jump up here to one of these cabinets here. We'll change it to inline. So what inline is if you need to use another amplifier or a non-networked amplifier that is one of ours, possibly, it allows you to move all of the voicing and tuning to in front of the amplifier. So in front of your line stream in Q-SYS, this could be a line out block feeding, not just the amplifier. And this is where the process would be done instead of in the amplifier. When it's hooked on the outside of the amplifier, we actually use the DSP in the amp to do the processing for our speakers. This lets you do it in line and then feed whatever amplifier you need. The one drop out of that is you do not get the limiting because we don't know what amplifier you would have behind it. So you would have to set up your own limiting capabilities if you're using the passive way, or as we say, inline setup. So it just allows us to put all our speakers in front of amplifiers. This is also the way it's done with like the SPA amplifier before we had the Q version, and it's even possibly done with the Q version that way too. Did that help?
William was asking, has the component changed in version 10 from 9.13? They're still running in 9.13, and I guess they just wanted to know if the information that you're showing would also be relevant in
The
9.13.
difference you're going to have is your choice of high pass in the properties. It's no longer here, as you can see, in this 10 dot version. It's been moved into the actual speaker block. So you would have the ability to change it on the fly or use control pins to change it. Um, was one of the things that, we were doing our speaker demos, we really pushed for because we run the demos with the subs and without. And it's really nice to be able to do that filtering prior to having to put another filter in front of it and or build some fun situations where you're running speakers with and without because it's part of the compile. So up to 913, it's part of the compile as property. And in the 10.0, it's the same. In 10.01 maintenance release, all of the high pass will be moved into the speaker block. That's really the only difference.
Why are the recommendations only for the 4-channel amplifiers? Can you use them
Mainly
with the 8
because of
channels?
the output power you can get for the 4 channels. We suggest the 8K4, so 2000 watts per channel on 4 boxes of the line array.
Can you adjust the cardioid? These are subwoofers in all directions, but how do you change the pattern in the speakers?
Hmm. That's something that you may have to do on your own with individual speakers all considered omni, and then you do your own delay settings prior to the feed. But we're only offering the preset voicing to do a set of stacked front to rear or over and above. Um, you see in a lot of shows where you can actually get a sub behind a sub and it makes a cardioid that way. And then most of the ones that are flown are either flown side by side or stacked, and side by side is considered stacked also because the cabinets are sitting within the same radius and the drivers are spaced the same.
Is the cardioid setting, where if you change the contour to cardio for a sub, where you get the two inputs on the side, is that going to be new in 10.01?
It should be in all versions right now.
It does not seem to be. Because somebody posted in here, Jesse did, about not seeing it in 9.13 one, and I checked 9.13 and 10.0, and if I pull in a PL sub 15 and change my contour to cardio, I still just have a full range input on my
Did you
block.
try an 18?
I did not. Give me a moment. Sub 18.
Was under the impression we were doing it with 15s also, but maybe it's only 18s.
Nope. If I can change it between Omni, cardio back, and cardio stack, and I still only get the one pin in.
Aha, so okay. Well, then that must be something that the team has added to make it easier. So if not, we would the boxes would just be 2 blocks done in the same manner.
Where you would just set one
One
to.
to cardioid stack and one to cardioid back, or
Okay.
you know. So yeah, that must be an improvement that we've done that I didn't realize we had did. So
Yeah, that must be a 10.01 thing. So just to clarify on that then for Jesse, um, you can still do it. You can still do the cardio setup. You just have to sort of do it manually, if you will, with two different blocks.
Yeah, because yours won't do the double
Correct.
pin.
I don't get the two
So,
pins.
and unfortunately, I'm in this version, but you would set the back one to cardioid back and then cardioid stack for the first front one.
All
And
right.
that would let this one run in its normal orientation, and this one would be considered the back speaker, whether it's behind or beside. And that's, obviously the change coming very soon allows for a simpler understanding of that. But if I do it here, you're going to see me get the extra connector because that's the way they've changed the software. So sorry. They wanted me to run this one so that you could see the high pass change, but
No, that's good. I mean, it's a
realized that they were gonna, we were gonna cause the subcardioid confusion.
right, let me look through here, see if there's anything else. So it looks like the cardioid modes are selectable for the 15 and 18.
Yeah, I believe it was 15 and 18 that were allowed for that. The 10-inch and 12-inch are not. That's mainly because they are drivers loaded in the box instead of front loaded. So
Hmm.
pathways are hard to get timing right for filtering on that. And I don't know if anybody's was at Infocom and heard and saw the 10-inch sub. It's a tiny little box, but the sub's actually in the box, so it's very, very small and flat. And we ran a pair of those right along with a pair of the 18s, and tonally they sounded very similar. I mean, obviously the output is less, but if you're looking at a 10-inch sub, you're obviously in a smaller venue anyway, and it's very easy to hide and tuck away that sub.
And as always, you can go to the PL Series page on the website and it will give you all the specs for it. It will also, at the bottom of the specs, it gives you recommended amplifiers and how many of them you can fit per channel based on the model of amplifier that you're using. Give you all the coverage details, everything from the model number of the yoke mounts if you need those for the CAs. Trying to think if there's anything else that any other
There's
information that people
full
might be.
CAD information there if you need to put it into CAD drawings and see about sizing and fitting. 2D and 3D CAD is available along with 2D PDF, for sizing and weights. And all that's right there available on the page for each of the cabinets. It's just on the left-hand side under you start out with documents, and as you work your way down, there's images and everything that's available.
Well, the PL series is very exciting for all of us here. This has been, in a lot of our internal opinion, this has been a long time coming that we've had a really nice mid-sized venue set that we can do inside Q-SYS and have, all of our intrinsic correction and have it be a sort of a native bit of this. We did have a question about adding balcony fills. So
Yes,
like the CA,
let me go back to sharing and we'll look in the inventory. Okay, we
or sorry, the DC-24.
yes. So we have just in our performance line here, we have I mean, you could possibly use the CA5, but it is a coaxial sort of omni radiating, not omni, but forward radiating speaker. But in the DC line for controllability, we have a dual 4 and a dual 6 for under balcony. Uh, the 6 actually has horn pattern adjustments. I think you get 4 different pieces to adjust on the horn on that. The 2.4 is 100, was it 110 by 50?
110 by 50.
by default, and that's in its horizontal man, and it's only as big as two 4-inch drivers, and it's actually got a under balcony shape for it. Please see our website. I'm gonna jump through that, but these two were made to fill in for those positions. They can be used as their own standalone boxes, but these were thought of as the under balcony fill, and even the 2.4 were actually thought about as lip fill for a stage, um, as they're very, very small speakers with very nice, warm vocal output. They're not going to have a super amount of low end, but obviously you're getting that from other places. And they have a yoke bracket for mounting, and then they have a zero, what we call it, a zero drop bracket. So it's two plates. One mounts to the speaker, one mounts to your surface. The plates bolt together, and it has a little bit of tilting capability, but it basically tucks it right against the surface. So you don't have to have any kind of a yoke drop for it. But if a yoke mount works for it, we offer that. But then the zero drop mount is available for both the 2.4 and the 2.6. That makes it mount basically right at the surface.
Yeah, that is it's an impressive little box, to be honest. The DC-24 and the DC-26. And then, when you pair them with that FM version of the mount, the flush mount, and just because we say it's a flush mount doesn't mean that it's just going to sit. Like, there is still adjustability even in the flush mount. Um, I don't remember exactly what the
Yeah, I don't have the amount of it's going to give you about 5 degrees of down on it. So, but it still keeps it tucked nice and tight, and you don't see the yoke spacing that you generally see in a yoke bracket.
oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, the back edge, the trailing edge of the speaker still stays pretty much right at the
And the other
ceiling.
thing I always notice when we talk about changing these horns, because they're directivity control, the boxes, when you take the grill off and take the four screws out of the horn itself is two half shells that bolt together, and it's just the horn that comes out. So the driver stays mounted in the box. So there's no need to worry about fighting the weight of a high frequency driver to get out. And you just change the half shells to whether any symmetrical or asymmetrical patterns you want to put. You can rotate them either way. And the beauty behind that is if the box happened to be installed and you needed a wider or tighter angle, you could just replace a lens on the horn, and we ship you with all the lenses in the box. So the 12s, I think, comes with the four extra lenses. The 8, I believe, is two, and the 2.6 is two other lenses. And they're in the box. So you don't have to worry about going, oh, I really need a 35-degree lens to mate with this 50. You have it. You don't have to order it. It comes with it. So you may have some extra parts laying around, or you can, save them for a need, or, whatever. They can, be put into the landfill, I guess. But the idea is that you don't have to panic if you need something, like something changed on your install, and all of a sudden you really need to shave off a bit of that high frequency on that wall. It's literally just pulling out one of the lenses and changing it and putting it back in.
John also added in that they're actually using the DC-26 with a ceiling mount for a front of house location.
Well, I mean, it's got the output to handle it for sure.
Yeah.
And hopefully, those of you that haven't had a chance to hear these at one of the trade shows can catch one of our road shows that we're having. Again, we're going to make it all the way across the country in various cities. So hopefully, it'll be one close to your area. And like I said, the week of September 15th, I think it's that Wednesday. I don't remember the date right offhand, but we'll be in New York in the Brooklyn area. There's a restaurant, little private brewery restaurant there that we're going to set up and run 2 runs during the day. And so if you're in that area, please reach out to your regional salesperson and get signed up to be there. And I think some mailer, some blasts are going out really soon, or if they haven't already gone out, likely you won't get it if you're not in the area, but hopefully if you're in that area, you can come give it a listen.
Let's see. what is the maximum number of PLLA line array speakers that can be safely flown in an array?
We state 12 at 10 to 1, and you can go to 16 at, I think it's like 7 to 1. But generally we're saying 12 is sort of the point at where most people want to stay in a 10 to 1 hanging.
And if anybody needs more info on that, there is a PLLA series rigging guide that is available on the website.
Because they will connect directly to the subs, they'll connect directly to the fly frames. You can do combinations of sub over, and then we are allowing with the 8-inch version the wide line extension bar and use two separate frames between the 18 sub and that, and you can actually do a flown behind sub for the 8-inch versions. But we do offer non-fly frame mounting for small arrays, 3 and 4 boxes. There's a simple front bar and a pullback bar that can be used. So, cost can be a little better and cleanly than having a standard multi-point fly frame that you can use. But we do offer a few other fly options for small arrays, 3 and 4 box arrays.
All right. We got
Okay. Well, thank you, everyone.
feel like we got most of I mean, we definitely got through all the questions.
Well, good.
So I'll just wrap up. If anybody does have any more questions, feel free to continue to drop them in. Where is that rigging guide? Oh, if you go on the PLDC page on the website, there is a link to a PL Series FAQ that actually exists on the support website. And there is a topic that says about what is the maximum number of PLLA line array loudspeakers. If you click on that, there is a link to that rigging guide.
And the actual manual has a lot of that in it also.
Yeah, there's all kinds of stuff on that rigging guide. Hang on, I
For those of
think
you
I
that are
got.
installing them, do look through your boxes. A lot of the hardware, when you're adding the sub, there are pieces that are there for you to add the sub connections to the frames and all that. So, don't do the old fashioned throw the cardboard away before looking inside, because there are some hardware pieces that are in there, some little coupling pieces that when you bolt it together, they allow you to change from a female to a male joining piece so that it fits the frame correctly and all that. That's all. So I just like to warn you. I know people have done that before. Pulled boxes out of stuff and then look right down at the bottom where we had taped down a little extra added packet of hardware. That happens. You get some of that with the frames. You get some of that with the sub boxes, and of course the amplifiers are the same and cores and everything. You don't want to throw the box away without getting all your euros or your power cords or whatever. Those things do happen. So
All right.
okay.
Bill put a link in to that rigging guide. I think it was John that had asked the question. I went ahead and pasted him a link directly as well. So everybody should be good to go on that. Um, thank you, Trip,
Yeah.
for that. This is like I was saying earlier, this has been a big thing for us to be able to enter into these venues. We know that a lot of times when you guys are installing systems that you end up with that sort of small or mid-size auditorium where it would be really nice to be able to just stay in your same Q-SYS system and have a set of speakers, a set of high performance speakers that really blend in well with everything else you've got going. So we love having the PL series. Trip has been instrumental in helping develop and deploy all of this. So I'm thankful for him to come spend his morning with us and show us a little bit about how to design and deploy around our PL series arrays. Like I said, next week we will be back, same bat time, same bat channel, where we will be presenting a deep dive on the escape room that we did at Infocom and ISE and showing how believe it or not, all of the logic that goes into that escape room and all the evaluation is all done in block controller. So Nate is actually going to show you guys how you don't have to be a scripting genius to go through and build your own escape room. Um, and just to reiterate, you'll get a recording of this webinar. Within about a week or so, you'll get the supporting documents from Trip and a video of this to go back and watch later on. So if there are no other questions, then we'll give you about 3 minutes of your day back. Thank you guys so much. Thanks to Trip and Bill for joining us today, and we will see you guys next week.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Have a great week.